Thank you so much for tuning into my show, William Wallace for America. I am grateful for your time and happy that you're spending it with me. Today's show is brought to you by Patriot Mobile, where you can get your cell phone service with a company that loves America as much as and I know you do too. A company that can save you some money, possibly. You can check out their plans if at any budget, possibly even give you better service because they use all three carrier lines, but most importantly, they are a Christian, pro life, pro military, pro Constitution, and pro American company. Switch your service by going to patriotmobile.com/WWFA. Today's show is not only a collection of many things that are going on today, but I want to use all of those examples to show you or talk about rather how we're all getting distracted by the individual shiny objects and we're not looking at the macro. Gone is the day when we could look at individual issues, solve it in our head, find whether there's facts to prove it or things to disprove it, and toss it or hang on to it. The problem is there are so many things that seem conspiratorial today, but we find out how much truth there actually is to a lot of them. But the problem is that we're all chasing a shiny narrative, and many people spend their time just talking about those narratives and repeating the single narratives. And I can't tell you how many times I heard that Biden had dementia when he was in office, and people are still talking about it now. Gone are the days when we can allow ourselves to be distracted by individual news stories. We have to, we absolutely must be educated, aware, knowledgeable, and be willing to listen to all the sides that are going on and everything that's happening, because only then are we really going to find the truth and bring more people together on common sense solutions. So you might ask me, as some people have, why do I even, or they'll say, why do you even listen to the other side? I say that actually in my intro, as you know, and I'm going to repeat this a little bit more and more because I have a methodology behind it. There's a reason for this. I don't listen to the other side for because I'm hoping that I'll change my ideologies or I'm looking for actual truth in what they're saying, even though sometimes they've got a lot of facts that we ignore because we're too busy making fun of the stupid things they say or the dumb things they do or how they're trying to steal our freedoms and liberties. All that's important to be noticeable of. However, we spend too much time paying attention to the distractions instead of really looking at things. And I'm explain that in a minute. It's kind of why I'm open-minded. Again, not because I'm soft on my ideologies and not because I think that the other side is the correct method to follow, but because when you know what the other side is thinking or feeling, you get an understanding of where there may be other solutions, what we can do to get a win or win people over to our side with, and even find some common ground to have victories on later. It's real simple. A lot of times they have an idea that we don't like, but we might have a solution to that idea if we listen to what they have to say about it. We're missing opportunities to find solutions to things that they might be upset about. I'm not going to go into those weeds on the extra on those exact ideas today. Well, I'll give you an example, one little example. I'm always talking about abortion issues. They're always fighting for abortion and the right to choose, and we're always fighting for the right to life and to end a law. I say, I've heard them so long talk about freedom and liberty and women's right to choose. Why don't we simply make adoption laws easier? Why don't we fight the common ground on adoption laws or the common ground of better care for women or the common ground of making it easier to support a woman after she's had her baby, not by making again, not by making them have better access to Medicaid or services that puts a drain on the government, but there are things that can be done to where women can have access to organizations that are already doing it outside of the government. I could go on that for days, but I kind of wanted to give you the example that there are a lot of things that we as conservatives and Republican minded people, American minded people, people that want America to be strong, not only for others, but fiscally responsible in ways that we can shrink our government, shrink bureaucracy. And the only way we're going to do this is finding many of those ideas that can win people over to our way of thinking and also to our way of doing things that shrink government and put more self-reliance back into our public. I know I get off on these things sometimes. You have to excuse me because I get passionate about this. There are things that we can do as Republicans, as conservatives. We have great ideas and great solutions for not only the general population and for our country, but for people and communities to really solve problems. Where we are losing it and where we are losing the battle, rather, is that our messaging sucks sometimes. We tend to focus on what they're doing wrong on the other side, focus on their bad ideas and the stupid things they say, instead of engaging with others on the solutions to our beliefs and our ideologies. And I'm going to say this about, for instance, like the MAGA movement. A lot of people saw the MAGA movement and Donald Trump as being the answer to all of these um, problems that we've been facing with our country and the solution to fix it the way we'd like to. The problem is we when he got elected, everybody went home and we just said, "Oh, Donald Trump's going to fix it." And we conservatives and Republicans stopped engaging as much. We thought, okay, Trump's in office, we're all good now. And everybody went home and nobody's engaging in a way. And as a result, the conservative movement has a chance to lose. You can look at the way that the elected officials in Congress are voting. They're not necessarily voting the way that we need them to all the time in a conservative, Republican minded sense. We right now, at this time during this administration, have three branches of government that we could really get conservative agendas, American minded. It's not just conservative. These conservative issues are American issues. The problem is the left has made it evil to be pro America. It has made conservative issues evil, even though many Democrats themselves are conservative. That's why we conservatives and Republican minded people have a chance to lose during this administration because we simply passed the ball on to Trump when he won and said, okay, you won, we supported you, you're going to do it. Many people argue that he's not as conservative as they thought. It doesn't matter. Trump, the general direction that Trump is moving things in can be really good, but we that are on the Republican conservative side have to stay engaged. If we want it to move in a good direction, we have to be engaged. We have to constantly improve our messaging because Donald Trump's not going to do everything right. He's not going to say everything right. But if the conservative movement stays engaged and gets back involved in the process, we can not only be able to have a seat at the table to actively engage with our elected officials to make sure they do the right thing, pass the right agendas, pass the right legislation to be able to provide opportunities for everybody. And if we do this in a positive way, which is why we have to constantly be engaged with our elected officials, look, you let the ones that you don't agree with know that you're involved in a positive way because you want them to listen and not ignore you. And when you work with the greater amount of people, which like I said, I think there's a lot of people that vote Democrat that we can win over if we'd improve our messaging and show that conservatism is not a bad thing. Things like voter ID, not bad. They've won the argument with their messaging that it's racist or hateful. We just have to show how our laws, how our immigration ideas, how our voter ID ideas not only protect America, but they protect the people of America. They protect jobs. We It's up to us to stay engaged, listen to the other side because there's so many people over there that are just carrying the water for the people that even they don't agree with 100%, they just don't know it. There's so many people on that side that we can win over to our side, that we so that way when elections happen, we're not fighting over, over a single issue that gets over a certain demographic. I don't think we convince people to vote conservative by calling them names and calling them out all the time and vilifying them all the time. Even though I don't like using the term conservative, I hate using conservative values because, like I said, I find lots of Democrats who are more conservative or as conservatives as people on the right. Conservative values don't have to be separated from American values. They're one and the same. Great communities, good education, safer neighborhoods, opportunities for everybody, the free market system that builds everybody up. These are all conservative values. We just don't message it properly. I don't think we can pull people away from the ideologies or beliefs where they find themselves naturally, especially the ones on the left or Democrats, or they've allowed themselves to be relegated to the boxes that the Democrats or the leftists try to put them in. We can't do it by throwing stones. We can't do it by constantly calling them out. We can only do it by positive messaging from our side and show them not only results, but show them how our ideas will work. We can't get a permanent win for issues on this country without waking up more people to our side. We don't convince them by beating them over the head with what they're doing wrong. We convince them by showing them that our ideas are better by getting them in place and getting our ideas in place rather, and giving them time for positive results. These are a couple of things that I'm worried about that I worry about with the Trump administration. He's got a lot of good ideas. He's got some not so good ideas. He's got some things he doesn't do right. I'm not going to give him a full pass because there's some things I think he's doing wrong and some things I think he could be doing better. And he certainly could do some things to improve on his messaging. What I worry about is that a lot of the things that he's putting in place now are not going to have the time to take effect before the midterms to turn things around and improve the things that he is working on. I worry about that because some of these things are gonna take longer, and but I think if the messaging behind it were a little different, we might be able to make people feel comfortable that don't agree with us, rather, on conservative, Republican-minded issues. We might be able to give them the assurance with some positive messaging to be a little patient if we can show results. Again, I'm not putting a blanket statement on this and saying I'm in full support of every single thing that's being done. I'm simply giving an example that there are plenty of things that we're gonna need some patience with, but there are many things that we probably, if we're all working together and we as conservatives are staying in the game instead of just getting out and, like I said, kicking the can, handing the football off, however you wanna put it, and saying, "Okay, you all are in charge now. We got Republicans in the House majorities. We got a Republican in the White House. We got a full Supreme Court. We're good. We're going home." It's like the pro-life movement. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, my biggest concern was that everybody who was in the pro-life movement says, "Okay, Roe v. Wade's overturned. It's going back to the states. We can all go home now." Instead of continuing the fight for things like better adoption laws, better care for women, prevention issues, healthcare issues, or promoting organizations that help women be able to take care of children until they don't need the help anymore through food, social aid services, job programs, whatever. There's lots of agencies, there's lots of organizations out there that do that. A lot of people in the pro-life movement went home when the Roe v. Wade was overturned. The conservative movement, in some ways, is doing the same thing because once we won power of all three branches of government, many people just said, "It's good. We're good." We have to stay in the game and stay engaged in a way that we are going to continue to bring more people to this. So why am I going on this? Why am I, you know, and why am I going on about this? I am watching my friends on the right criticize people and actions on the left, and I get it. It's not that I disagree. I look at people on the left and I don't agree with most of what they're saying, but if you listen with them and you engage and you find out what their issues are and you try to listen to figure it out, we can use that information or that knowledge to be able to, with our messaging, find solutions that show them a conservative solution or a solution that brings them to our side of the aisle and thinking. It's not that difficult. Like I said, I just pointed out with the pro-life and pro-choice movement. In the process of us not messaging good ideas and results, instead we're messaging what we don't like about them or what they did wrong. We're criticizing them for what they're doing. Again, Elon Omar, all the people that are doing illegal things or are doing things that we don't agree with and we can make fun of all day long. I get it. I'm there with you. But if we're too busy throwing stones at them, we're getting criticized for being hypocrites. We're getting called the bad guys because instead of offering solutions and instead of showing that our ideas work and are better, we're throwing stones. Most people criticize without understanding and support, without knowing when to keep the good ideas and when to get rid of the bad ones. How we can improve the messaging. I'm gonna repeat that a little bit differently, 'cause I realize I heard how I said it. A lot of people, they try to criticize without understanding. They criticize without knowing or listening to be able to find the good ideas, so we can formulate with our messaging and work on the good ideas, get rid of the bad ones. But if we don't try to start understanding where they're coming from, we don't have to agree with it. We not only don't have to agree with it, we can still dislike it, but we're trying to win a battle here. We're trying to win a war for America. We are in a place in our country where the national debt is out of control. We're Look, corruption is being accepted. When you look at the elected officials that are becoming million, they cannot run the government. They cannot balance a budget, but they can make $40 million on a stock trade. Epstein files come out and all of this horrible stuff that's in there, and it just goes away. The corruption and the crime just goes away because we accept it with complacency. And because we're too busy chasing the shiny objects, the people in power know that, and they just keep giving us shiny objects to chase. That's why it's up to us, because I truly believe that there are more people that vote Democrat that would vote with us if we improved our messaging in a way and proved our good idea, showed our good ideas, and spent our time in positive messaging and positive factual a dissemination of factual information that proves our ideas, so we don't get seen as hypocrites. We all know people on the left are the ones starting the violence. They're the ones that are really hateful in many ways. And I'm talking about the leftists. I'm not talking about the Democrats that would vote with us. I mean, I'm talking about the ones who are starting the fires. I'm talking about the ones that are dividing up the left into little groups for the purpose of control. We know where the hate is coming from, but the fault of the Republicans is complacency. The fault that we have is in our messaging. We had the better ideas on the right. We had, and it's not even a right versus the left anymore. Because when you really talk to more people in public, I find many people that vote Democrat. I find I find enough in common with many people that vote Democrat or are slightly left of center. I find many things in common that would bring them to fight for a movement that brings more prosperity to Americans, more opportunity, safer neighborhoods, and good morals, things that bind communities together. I find more in common that not only bring good morals together, but support family. So again, most people criticize without trying to understand. And you don't have to give up your ideologies to try to understand. You simply you c you can completely disagree with what they're saying and doing, but listen, because also with listening to what they're saying and doing, we become more educated on everything that's going on. Instead of blinding ourselves with the things that we believe and adhere to and criticizing the shiny objects and the narratives that make them look dumb. If we really try to change our approach and listen to understand instead of listening to react and criticize, the conservative movement would be empowered even more. Notice, for instance, during elections, everybody, they're always fighting over the moderates. Look, we've been so divided up between right and left and conservative and Democrat and Republican. We've been so divided up. They've got they got the right and the left, the conservatives and the liberals. They got us kind of pinned in and corralled up because of our complacency, because we're so busy chasing the shiny objects and news stories that we are allowing ourselves to be kind of corralled up. Okay, if you believe Joe Biden has dementia, you're over here. Now you guys are going to criticize AOC for her stupid stuff. I mean, I'm pulling this stuff out of my ears. I get it. But the reality is, when election time comes around, open your eyes. And here again, let me say it this way. I'm just trying to get people to open their eyes. Because when you look beyond your own ideologies, you look beyond your favorite narratives, you look beyond your news stories, you look beyond your own information that you love, excuse me, that you love listening to, and you look to the stuff that you don't agree with. If you listen without trying to invest your beliefs in it, but you listen for the purpose of understanding, your eyes will be opened up. Look, I do this all the time regularly. And you know what? My eyes have been opened up to to having more information where I really start to see more of you start to see more what's going on behind the scenes naturally. Not going, behind the curtain, there's this guy pulling. You begin to see things, begin to see more because you can start connecting more dots on how we're divided up. You start to connect, well, maybe if we do this over here, we can stop that over there. It's just a unique way of thinking about it. And when you are more aware of what's going on with everything, even the things you don't agree with, and your eyes become more opened, you're more motivated to be more aware on the messaging and solving problems instead of being looked at as a hypocrite because all you're doing is criticizing the other side. So back to what I was saying about elections. As a result, during elections, they prove themselves that they don't need the majority. They don't need us. We have basically eliminated the need for us, the average American who just wants solutions. Because in elections, they're always fighting over the moderates. They're fighting over the independents. They're fighting over the undecided. Those are the guys that are slightly left of center and slightly right of center. The slightly left of center guys, let's say, I don't know what percentage would be left or how far to the left. A lot of them are the moderates, and moderate simply means people, not that they can be, worked with, so to speak, but we find more in common together with the moderates that would bring them to our side when we show them that our ideas, pardon that slip up, are better using our messaging. So imagine if you are the side that has better ideas and you reflect the concerns of those that you disagree with. Like if you are on the opposite side and you've got the good ideas and you're showing you're compassionate enough to listen, and you can kind of reflect, yeah, I hear you saying this, and you come up with good ideas to solve those issues, which we have, but we don't do it with our messaging. And we don't do it because we've abdicated our authority to people that are in control of the MAGA movement. The MAGA movement is not a bad movement when you look at the things that it does to put America first, put people first. It becomes a bad movement when we allow the messengers of the movement that often say things that we don't necessarily all agree with get away with it, and we don't fix it. We don't fix the messaging. So the media tags it, drags it through the mud, and some of it rightfully so, because if it's bad legislation or bad ideas or bad messaging, it needs to be pointed out. But we can't just go, okay, we're going to let it go because it's the MAGA movement. No, we got to say, we're better than that. We have these other ideas. You stick to the movement in general. You don't abandon your ideologies. You simply continually work on making it better with not only better ideas, but the messaging. Because when you do that and you listen to the other side, you not only win the argument with better ideas, you win the argument with compassion. And we don't look like hypocrites. We have the better ideas. We just got to show it with better messaging and compassion instead of throwing rocks. I get it. Believe me, I absolutely get it, because all day long I can make fun of, which, by the way, I just now switched my banner. So notice, if you want to get some health stuff, rncstore.com/WWFA. But look, I get it. I get all day long. I could, I love making fun of the stupid stuff they do. I'm right there with you, because I look at it, I go, golly, I am so glad that I don't believe in some of the stupid stuff that they believe in. And I'm overgeneralizing, I get it. But for the purpose of not going into the weeds on that, you get it. I mean, all day long I can point out the idiocy of what they do on the left, or the Democrat establishment does, that to us is obviously just idiotic. And the things they say all day long, I can play that game, and I get it. And look, and when I talk to my friends on the left, I and all day long I could probably try to defend some of the things that Trump says and does, and all day long I could probably, shrug my shoulders and go, yeah. But either of those things, approaches, doesn't solve the problems. It that's why I try to shine the light on other things, because the reason they're getting away with all of this, like the brutality in the Epstein files, even that Congress people, and there's one in Louisiana that filed her report, after she made, after how many millions of dollars. I get it. The reason they're getting away with this is because we spend so much time arguing over the minutiae and the silliness instead of the solutions. Time goes by, and then it becomes too late, and we go, oh, everybody knew about the Epstein files and the stuff that would be in it, and we all kind of knew what was going on with the island. That's old news. And then they bring out the new issues, because nobody was paying attention the first time, and they certainly aren't going to be paying attention to the next stuff. And they run it around in the news cycles, and before we know it, the next set of issues gets old. And meanwhile, our debt grows. The whole reason why people are getting away with things in the Epstein brutality instances is because we're too busy going on to the next issue, or we've abdicated our authority to politicians who've divided us up on the shiny objects instead of realizing that we're paying attention. But the biggest way they know that we're not paying attention is because less people are voting and they have more control over the fraud that's going on in the election process because less people are voting. I always say, whether you support voting machines or paper ballots, the real problem is that 10, 20% of people are voting. They know the majority of people aren't paying attention. At best, in a presidential election, we might get what, 50, 60% of people voting. The biggest problem is that everybody has abdicated their authority, gets involved in the minutia, shiny objects, instead of listening, talking about solutions, getting involved, showing up to vote, and increasing community involvement in the process. Let's take a timeline. Let's go way back. Government was smaller, had less authority. Politicians didn't get rich as much. Less laws, more freedom, more liberty, going way back in the timeline of America. But more people actively voted. There's more involvement. More people it was a sense of pride to vote. People fought to vote. Today, less people vote, government's gotten bigger. I know it's not the reason it's not the only reason government's gotten bigger, but it's one of them. It's one of the problems on why we're in debt so much. People aren't paying attention, so politicians get away with it. And in the process, they keep putting out more and more narratives and more shiny objects faster than ChatGPT can come up with it. They want us to be distracted. They want us mad at what Trump said or did, or they want us upset about what the other elected official did. They want us to be upset about what, that the Democrats aren't doing. And we should be, by the way, that they're not doing the ID, having a national law. You have to have an ID and citizenship. They want us to be mad about that. I get it. We should be. And those are the issues that are the bigger issues that if we really got involved and we showed, again, that percentage of Democrats or people that vote Democrat on the left that are one issue voters, they're voting Democrat because they're worried about ICE, but they will coalesce with people over there that also agree that voter ID is racist. Well, if we change the messaging and showed them, and as I always tease about and say, hey, don't let the Republicans cheat, demand voter ID, and I know it's a joke on the messaging, but the concept's the same. You got to show them the other side. I know maybe I'm being all Pollyanna and positive on this, and maybe a lot of my positiveness doesn't work on some of this stuff. But if we took a different approach and educated ourselves on issues instead of throwing stones at the shiny object narratives and things that we don't agree with and looking like hypocrites and looking like the bad guy, because no matter how good our ideas are, if we continue to throw stones, we don't get seen as a good guy. We get seen as a bad guy that just got some ideas that they're told not to like. Show compassion, show understanding, listen, and you don't have to even agree. You don't have to say you disagree. Listen, understand, and then you come out with the good ideas and go, hey, that guy listened to us. Whoa, he's got some ideas. It's simple sales, my friends. It's simple Napoleon Hill you know, how to win friends and influence people. It's very simple. The problem is we have allowed the media to run with the narratives that supports an agenda by groups of politicians that do much better with us divided and government getting bigger to help fund their projects. They want us to be distracted. They want us to be mad at Trump. They want us to be mad at Ocasio Cortez and Schumer and everybody else. That's the way they want us. What about Bad Bunny and the halftime show? I'm gonna go there for a minute. I'm gonna allow myself to be distracted for a minute. Just one little piece. Everybody's distracted about the Bad Bunny halftime show, and they're focusing on whether he singing in Spanish instead of English, and or did TPUSA do a better job? And then, of course, if you listen to Candace Owens, she'll tell you that TPUSA, exaggerated their numbers. Everybody's distracted by the halftime show, but nobody's paying attention to the foul language that Bad Bunny was singing in a different language. Nobody's paying attention to that. Yeah. Oh, well, you see, when you start to look and listen and uncover other things, you're more aware that the distractions aren't solving the problems. That's why we have to stay in the game, especially conservative, Republican minded people who are pro America, make America great again in the sense of people being first. We have, again, MAGA has been something that's been demonized because they have successfully demonized Trump in the media, and they've attached MAGA to Trump in the negative ways. And because we said, okay, MAGA won and Trump's in office, we don't have to be involved anymore. We aren't doing the messaging that we need to do for our movement of improving everyone's lives in America, improving our communities, improving our education, lifting everybody up through policies that involve shrinking government, involve prosperity for everybody, put our capitalism type free market style economy back in force, deregulate. That's another thing that I think most people that vote Democrat don't realize. Conservatism is also about deregulating our country, taking power away from the bureaucratic state. The reason our system is so screwed up is because politicians who don't have to be accountable to us because we've abdicated our authority with complacency, politicians then become part of the bureaucratic system, and they start cutting deals with businesses and industry for jobs instead of just making our marketplace favorable. They're going to get in there and they cut these deals. We're do this because we're going to be able to, this company's going to make but more jobs for people. Whatever. You know what? It happens more on a local level. Where I live, I can point out a ton of examples right now where elected officials, run for office to do the right thing. And then they get in there and they cut deals with businesses, and politicians just become part of the bureaucratic system. Not all. There's a lot of good ones. And I'm going to be interviewing a lot of good ones coming up. Look, I'll interview bad ones. I'll even interview ones that are of a party that I don't like. Because when you bring people to the table and you let them talk and the people listen in a calm way, they listen in an engaged type of way, and you listen to understand, the truth comes out and the false narratives get seen a little bit easier because you don't have the smoke and fire that happens when you are arguing and throwing stones at everybody. Again, my friends, I'm right there with you. I enjoy it. I do enjoy casting some stones, stirring the pot a little bit. I get it. I got away from it 99% of the time because I kind of go, you know what? I find understanding and compassion is going to end up being the way to bring more people to the pro America side, to the conservative valued side, to the family side, to the community side, where people win and our country wins. And when you do that, you will find that there's less illegal immigration, less crime, less corruption, because people being engaged and doing the right messaging, promoting good ideas, weeds out evil faster than division. Elected officials are dividing us up. It's up to us to not only stop the division, but be able to engage in a way that they have to listen to us. Look, elected officials, they get in office, they tax us for our own good to make, the right amount of agencies and bureaucratic systems, put the right amount of agencies and bureaucratic, departments in place to make us feel like we're getting the services that we're taxed for. While while the services or while those agencies are only taking away our free will, and those agencies and bureaucratic systems and programs rather are only taking away our motivation to do better. It's okay. Our tax dollars are hard at work, and our politicians that have become part of the bureaucratic state are working hard within the government to rob our freedoms more efficiently. Oh, did I say that? Oh, yeah, I did. Because that's what's happening. And meanwhile, our complacency is cheering on the whole system. The politicians that become part of the bureaucratic system, we're only empowering them. We're cheering. Great. Thank you for that splash park you gave us. Thank you so much for that welfare system that gives so much money to illegals, aliens, that we forget about the veterans on the street. We forget about the women that if we help them differently with a more efficient system, which I'll have ideas that I'm going to roll out later, we forget that if we did things like helping women better, prevention, job opportunity, adoption, stuff like that, we forget that if we did that with our government, our government agencies instead, that we would have less abortions. We put power in the hands of the politicians and the bureaucratic state so much that they decide based on elections and who's voting and who they can manipulate to vote in the next election, and changing just enough moderates and independents and undecided to go in the direction they need, because we've abdicated our authority to the bureaucratic state that the politicians have become a part of and invested in, because that's how they circumvent the money, or that's how they circulate the money and circumvent our Constitution. So government gets bigger, our taxes go up, business and industry passes it on to those high prices onto the consumer and the price of their goods and services. And don't forget about the insurance rates. But we're too concerned about the individual distractions of ICE and something that Trump said or something that was stupid, or whether the NFL should be boycotted because of Bad Bunny. Again, in the process, government grows, gets more inefficient, and instead of calling on elected officials to fix it, we spend our time talking about only the ones that we really don't like, and repeating this over and over again. And while we repeat over and over again the same process, meaning repeating the same doing the same thing over and over again every day, of just crying and whining about the hot news topics and narratives instead of getting involved, while we're just keep on rinsing and repeating, they're just repeating the same thing they're doing and running roughshod over us. Again, it's not all politicians. And let me say this. Let me back away, and I'm going to put a highlight on this. I'm highlighting it. I'm double underlining this. I'm putting this in all caps, so get ready to hear it. It really isn't all politicians. It's the local ones, I think, are the worst when it comes to becoming part of the bureaucratic state. But it's still not all politicians. It's not even all of them. It's not even all the ones in DC. There's a lot of Republicans that are doing the right thing. I'd say most of them, and there's some Democrats doing the right thing. The problem is the establishment that controls all of them to put them in all, to keep them in office and put them in positions of power. But it's the combination of the establishment and the bureaucratic state, and the people that control the bureaucratic state and the government departments and programs, that ties it all together and launders the money for them. It it's not the individuals, or not all the individuals. It's a lot of them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not backing away from what I've been saying about politicians, but the good ones need us involved, because they need our involvement to back them up, instead of us being distracted and going and chasing the shiny object that's getting more attention, while we leave them to the to the control of the bureaucratic state or the establishment. Sorry. I you know, we got to be more strategic and proactive in our communities and our government. And I'm sorry, I just get tired sometimes of everyone spending their time not focusing on the solutions, while everyone, is on the Epstein list. I get it. It's disgusting what we're finding out with the Epstein files. But we're being so distracted about everything else that some of that's just going to get thrown to the side. And we could probably do something about it now if we get involved in it more now. And some people are, but the problem is that we're not going to be able to turn this thing around on a dime. We've come so far. These things are so ingrained in our system. These processes, the bureaucratic state, the agencies, the red tape. It's going to take a while to unwind. But the only way we're going to do it is to start now. Ironically, as the narratives come out, or the facts that fix, or as the narratives have come out, and the facts that fix the conspiracies of the past come out even slower, everyone just accepts it as like, oh well. I mean, it's not just the Epstein files; it's everything. It's the politicians getting, it's the bad ones that are getting wealthy off of stock trades, which is illegal, by the way. It's all of it. And again, I do want to say this again about the Epstein files. The freaks that are in those files, that were participating in the heinous things that were being done on there, maybe they never get convicted, tried, charged, or whatever, because like I said earlier, it becomes, oh, that happened, back, and we're finding out about it now, but it happened a long time ago, and everybody's worried about the next shiny object. if we keep on working on exposing the people in there and stay on it, they'll mess up again. If we support the victims, and let's just say neither one of those things happen. If we change it now and we start our messaging on good solutions and we start bringing more people together and we continue to expose everything in a positive way, even though some of it's negative, a lot of these things will never happen again, or they'll happen less. But it's only going to go that way if we change our messaging, if we show them the good ideas of the pro-America movement, of the pro-family movement, of the pro-community movement, of the pro-prosperity for all movement. But we got to pay more attention to what's underneath the shiny narratives, or we will all soon be cheering on that every person is being linked to a digital ID and a cashless society. Yeah, I snuck that in because that's what some of the people in power really want. When we regular people continue to ignore what the narratives or we continue to ignore what's going on behind the scenes, a lot of the stuff that they're trying to do to control us even more in the future, it just goes unnoticed. And that's not conspiracy thinking. You can look what's happening in England, China, Japan, all those places, digital ID type stuff. I know, oh, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, who cares if the government's tracking you? Well, you say that now, but when everybody's, in that system, it won't matter if you do anything right or wrong. You get locked into a system where, you've heard the joke. It was a joke a long time ago when your government pays for your health care and your phone's attached and your digital ID is attached and you can't pay cash and everything's done electronically and you do something wrong and they go, well, you ordered a pizza, you don't have access to the health care and we're gonna, take some of that money out of your account and we're gonna charge you for doing it digitally, like what's happening today. They want everybody to pay digitally now, but everybody charges you extra when you pay it digitally. It's happening with government services because nobody's paying attention. Now there are departments of water. I know in state of Louisiana, there's departments of water, things that, well, they don't have an office to go bring your cash to, and you can't mail a check in, but you pay with a credit card. Oh, there's a credit card fee for that. So we have to be so vigilant right now. And this is not conspiratorial. This is positive. Doing it now and getting involved now stops a lot of the loss of freedom, demands accountability from our elected official, and screams for smaller government. And when more of us are involved in smaller government issues, which is one of the things that I believe brings those moderates, independents on the left over to us by being positive and compassionate and listening for the purpose of understanding and not for the purpose of to criticize, we win. Society wins. America wins. And that's what it's all about. We still have to look at the whole spectrum of what's happening. You got to look at the shiny objects for a second, but don't let them carry you away. You got to pay attention to conspiracies because some of them might be true. You got to find the facts. You got to be aware of what politicians are doing good, which of the good ones need our help to know that we got their back and we're supporting them. We got to pay attention to everything from what the far left or the far leftist people are doing to what their voters or shall I say, we have to know what the leftists are saying, but we have to know what the voters, those one issue voters that are carrying their water are doing all the way to the far right Christian conservative and everyone in between. We're in a time of information where we can't just pay attention to one thing. We gotta be aware of it all. We gotta listen to what the other side is saying in a way that we get seen as the guys with not only good ideas, but are compassionate to listen. Maybe it's being Pollyanna. I get it. Some of my right-wing friends are, "Oh, no, we gotta attack. We gotta stop them." I get it. I get it. I get that fight. I get that argument. I understand it, and I don't disagree with you wholeheartedly. We have to fight. We have to fight for the ideologies that put power back in the hands of Americans, that put people first, that put America first, that strengthen our country, that strengthens America. We have to do it in a way while we're paying attention to everything that not only we hanging on to our beliefs on the good policies, but we're paying attention to what we need to know more about to come up with better ideas to bring more people to the table, to our table, or to America's table, I'll say, with good ideas and good messaging. We got to listen to all of them because I got to tell you, with because these days, to be fully aware, you have to listen to everyone and take. And I'm flipping a saying here, so get ready. We got to take every grain of salt as a possible important piece to the entire puzzle instead of thinking of it as just a grain of salt. Unfortunately, some of the craziest stories that we've been listening to for a while and today are starting to carry a lot of weight on what's happening in our government, especially. And I'd say normally call me conspiratorial, but I really didn't go into any conspiracy theories. I just said you got to pay attention to them. Didn't say you have to believe them. Didn't say you have to promote them, but pay attention to them. I'm just sounding the alarm for freedom, guys. I again, call me Pollyanna. It's not that. I just love this country. I love the concept and the idea of not working together in a way where I'll release my beliefs and my ideologies, but where more people come together like we used to and demanded a better government, where politicians knew we were paying attention to what they were doing and not the narratives that were being perpetuated by the establishment or the media. I just believe in a country where we could have better communities, safer communities. We have so much opportunity in this country. We don't need government bureaucratic handouts. Yes, there's some things that have become part of society that it's gonna be I'm not saying we have to end them today. Believe me, I get it. But we could phase things out. With conservative issues, we can bring back the power of family through churches. We can bring back the power of family through communities working together. We can bring back the power of the free market system for everybody. The black families in America before LBJ, before the Great Society, before Planned Parenthood, black families, and yes, even during Jim Crow eras in the South, and I'm only bringing this timeline up, black families had a higher entrepreneurial rate than the average American. I said that wrong. Than the average white American. Black families created businesses. Black families had lower divorce rates than white families. There, there, there are so many things that we've lost touch with because we've handed over so much of our own power and abilities to government by simply being complacent, by abdicating our authority to bureaucracies. And we can get this back. We can get prosperity back for everybody in our country. We can get these things back. And again, I hate using that word conservative. I've said it 1,000 times this show, I know, because it's been made to be a bad thing by the leftists and media and stuff like that. But when we show conservative values through the right messaging and the right facts and outcomes, we win. And when we listen with compassion instead of throwing stones, and again, to my friends on the right, I get it. Get fired up when you see somebody you feel you have to fight with who's saying something stupid and you feel like they're taking away not only our rights, but they're taking away the future of America because they're perpetuating that there should not be voter ID or that we should not we should not reform our immigration system. I get that you feel like you're fighting for your country. Don't give up that passion. Don't give up that fight. In conclusion, what I'm saying in today's episode is that we simply have to change the fight, change the game, change it in a way that we become the ones that are more compassionate with good ideas instead of being seen as the guys always throwing stones and calling names. It's up to us. And when it comes to the elected officials that are in our movement that are doing the wrong thing, it's up to us to call them out the same and say, "Yep, yep, yep." Not kick them out, but hey, look over here. The majority of us believe in this. And that's the way we do this. That's the way we save this country. But as I save this country, America doesn't need to be saved. There's a man on the cross that did it a couple thousand years ago. America's already been people here have already been saved. We just have to protect the foundation of America. I know I got a little biblical and Christian on you for a second. The reality is the people of this country have an opportunity to be able to protect values, a system, if you will, that was designed for everybody to prosper, for everybody to be free. It's up to us. And that, my friends, is how I'm going to end the show today. Of course, always, please, Patriot Mobile, go check out some of the sponsors on my webpage at williamwallace.net and continue to tune in. I got some other things coming out. It's campaign season. I will be doing lots of interviews with a lot of people running for office as a way to bring out some good ideas, listen compassionately to help find better ones. Thank you all very much. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And I will talk to you soon with another episode coming up really soon. Have a great day.